With each other. Everything like that. I know. I just never get to use it. Well, when I lived in New Zealand, to run on the beach so the rain.
Okay, everybody ready?
Yes. Except John. Real.
You know, how many of you remember Vince Lombardi?
Yeah.
All right. It's quite interesting. He was frustrated with the team, and he wanted to figure out, okay, now, how do we get everybody lined out and on the same page? And he figured, okay, we got to go back to the basics. And so he got everybody together, and in his frustration, he held the football up and he said, this is a football. There's a football team that he's talking to, you know. This is a football. Talk about basics, huh? Okay, that's what I thought of tonight, is what we need to do is talk about the basics, because if everybody in the room isn't doing the basics right now, it's obviously my fault, because I didn't help you to understand how essential each of the basics are. Now, the difference between body chemistry support and sporadic supplementation or the treatment of symptoms, the main difference is with body chemistry support, what we're doing is acknowledging the fact that we're not even trying to fix the body. We can't fix the body, so we're not even going to try. The body is brilliantly designed to be able to normalize its own functions and correct whatever problems that it does have. Now, what I found, in fact, it was very interesting, one person that had, because of a fairly serious condition, he had to live on the 30-day challenge for at least 4 months. And he found that during toward the end of the 4th month, his energy got so high that his body was able to go back and heal an eye problem that he had 20 years previous. And it healed within 1 week period. He just watched it just rapidly heal itself. And it caused me to realize that all of us, besides accumulating a lifetime accumulation of garbage in the body, we also accumulate a lifetime of damage where the body didn't have enough energy to be able to heal itself. Why? Because, first of all, we're usually sacrificing at least 50% of our energy to digest food. And then if we have energy left, we convert every bit of it into accomplishment. And if we get close to bedtime and we still have some energy, we look around for some other little project to do so we can burn that last little bit of energy up. As adults, we are all basically, until we start turning this around and putting a charge back into the battery, basically most every one of us before that point is energetically bankrupt if you were to look at energy as you would money. The average adult, human adult, is energetically bankrupt. And so what we need to do is figure out, okay, why are we abusing the energy, and what can we do to start putting a charge back into the battery? Now, the starting point, obviously, for building energy is to look at what destroys energy in the worst way in the body. It's recycling the waste material and not evacuating, not eliminating the poisons from the body. Autointoxication is the #1 cause for the breakdown of our energy. Not properly keeping the pathways of elimination open to where the body can get rid of the waste. The second is eating too large of cooked meals, because if you look at the body like a manufacturing plant, it takes a certain amount of energy to function this plant. Well, if you're busy digesting food, the body has to take from our life force, and it converts that into digestive enzymes to break that food down. So, what I found And I want to put tonight's presentation into the priority of what I found that every one of our bodies wish that we knew and would do to support the body's efforts to normalize our condition. The highest priority is the body. All of our bodies would love for us to know that it needs support, it needs help in digesting the foods that we're already eating. Whatever it is that we're already eating, the body would really love to have additional support, and that's where the plant digestive enzymes come in. Now, after you use the enzymes for a month or two, you get to the point where you can't really tell. Like the first month, you take the enzymes with a meal, and you can tell, my gosh, it's really good. You know, I don't feel so drained after eating the meal. After a month or so, you don't feel that obvious feeling, and so you think, well, maybe it's not so important. Well, the thing is, it's still robbing the body, but you just have a little bit more energy, so we're accustomed to the feeling of being depleted, and so it's like, okay, I don't need the enzymes, or do I? Well, yes, the body is still having to convert our life force into digestive enzymes, so to consistently just decide, okay, this is the highest priority of all, to be consistent with taking the enzymes with every meal, so that the body doesn't have to take from our life force to digest the food. And the other thing is, the largest volume of substance that disease is made of is unusable food residue. And the reason why that mass is present is basically because of poor digestion. If we could chew the food better, then only enhance the digestion with the plant enzymes, the body's digestive system is really designed to complete the digestive process. If you study how the digestive tract really works, we actually have almost like two stomachs. You have a tight band in the about a third of the way down the stomach that will tighten up as soon as we start eating. And that is, if you think about the ideal way of eating, we're grazers just like cattle and a lot of other animals like that. We eat raw foods, we chew them very well, we swallow that upper cardiac portion of the stomach, the band tightens up and holds that food in the upper part of the stomach. There's no peristalsis up there, and there's no hydrochloric acid. The purpose for that section of the stomach is to allow the food enzymes that the vegetables contain to start breaking those foods down. The food contains from 5 to 75% of the enzymes that it needs to self-digest. And so how much should we eat? Well, if we eat more than the size of your fist, you're stretching that band out and forcing that band to open and the food to drop into the lower portion to where it doesn't get this pre-digestive process. But if you just take that for the rule of thumb for each of us, that's how big that area of the stomach is. If we don't stretch it out, we chew that much up, swallow it. It sits there for, I think it was about 30 minutes. It's been so long since I've reviewed that. It sits there for about 30 minutes in a pre-digestive state. Then that band relaxes and drops it into the lower portion where hydrochloric acid is added, and the protein, digestive enzymes, is added to the mixture. Now, the only purpose for the stomach is actually to start liquefying, breaking the substance down, and to begin the protein digestive process. As soon as it moves out of the stomach, the hydrogen from the hydrochloric acid is pulled out because it's quite acidic at that time. Then the alkaline pancreatic enzymes are added. But you take the plant enzymes and you have an extended pre-digestive process that just continues right on through. It's really only an enhancement to our body's natural functions. It's not to take the place of them. And so I'll put out another point. Over 40 years of age, most all of us are deficient of hydrochloric acid. And I was thinking at one point of encapsulating hydrochloric acid and just having it consistent through the program, that when you have a protein meal, you allow your body to produce as much hydrochloric acid as it can. Now keep in mind, hydrochloric acid doesn't digest anything. All it does is it sets the pH to activate our own protein digestive enzymes. But I was thinking, okay, that is a major problem with everyone, is once the protein digestion goes down the tubes because of a hydrochloric acid deficiency, if you read an article of what each of the amino acids will do for the body, if you didn't know what that was you were reading about, you'd think, oh my gosh, I need to go run down and buy that right now. Almost every one of the amino acids are that impressive of the work that they accomplish. And when you can't digest your protein properly, you don't get those benefits. In fact, poorly digested protein is one of the more toxic substances we generally recycle through the body. We need to break those proteins down completely so that we get the benefits of the individual amino acids, which are the building blocks of the protein. And so rather than overly acidifying the body by having everybody supplement with hydrochloric acid when most bodies are already overly acidic, I was thinking about papain one day and how it's a protein digestive enzyme, and that it's also an extract of fruit. And I thought, well, holy cow, that would make a whole lot more sense to enhance the digestion of protein instead of adding acidity to the body. And so that's the reason why with the before the meal digestive enzymes that we have here, the Primagest, actually there's two things. Another one was I shifted to another supplier of concentrated enzymes because the first one, they claimed that they weren't allowed to sell the concentrated enzymes without them being dispersed with a certain amount of maltodextrin. Because in manufacturing, if a person fluffed the enzymes and inhaled it, of course they're digestive enzymes, they digest your lungs out. And so they'd say, oh, it's too dangerous, we have to disperse it with maltodextrin. But I found another company that I told them, hey, look, I'll make sure that everybody is extra careful. I want just the enzyme blend that I gave them the formula for, and no maltodextrin at all. And because they did that, then I had all that extra space in the capsule that I could load with the papain. Thank you. And so now the Primagest will not only help you to digest the meal, enhance the digestion of the meal, it's really going to emphasize the complete digestion of proteins. So just know that that's your body's highest desire for you, is help me digest the food so that the residue doesn't become a substance that develops into disease. The second priority that the body would like for us to know about is that the intestinal tract is a little bit sluggish because going through childhood, where do young people hold most of their fears? Abdominally. And where do they put their peanut butter jelly sandwiches and bananas? It all goes through the intestinal tract and makes things get a little bit sluggish. And by the time we make it through the teen years and eat the things that teenagers do, as adults, the intestinal tract is a little bit on the sluggish side. And the main thing that causes the sluggishness is when the friendly bacteria has been destroyed by either chlorinated water or antibiotics. And I'm talking about even antibiotics that are in poultry products and dairy products. You might not be exposed to antibiotics from a doctor, but you get it still from so many other directions. That in itself, when the friendly bacteria is destroyed, that causes an additional stickiness in the intestinal tract, and things start slowing down. And so the second highest priority is to sweep the intestinal tract and get things moving. Now, for nearly 20 years, a product that we called fiber regulators has been a very powerful support working with the bowel tone as a team to rebuild the intestinal tract. And the fiber regulator was, you could regulate the movement of the fiber through the intestinal tract with the fiber regulator because it was a mild herbal laxative. But as I've been sharing the last couple of months with a lot of you, I've decided that rather than worrying about the fact that that's my baby and that's my formula, the ozonated magnesium gives us more bang for the buck to actually be able to oxygenate and purify the intestinal tract, as well as helping to relax the stricture that pretty well everybody has at least one stricture, and we got to get that thing relaxed so that we get complete elimination. And so with the three benefits that we get out of the ozonated magnesium in the kits that were put together for the body chemistry support system, we shifted the fiber regulators out, and it's pretty well standard the use of the ozonated magnesium. But the second highest priority, as I'm getting at, is the body would like for us to help scrub the residue of the food and the waste out of the intestinal tract. Now keep in mind there's also another thing that constantly needs to be moved out, and that is mucus in the intestinal tract, because we don't eat the way that the body was designed to be fed. In fact, the research that they've done probably 30 or 40 years ago, at least 40 years ago, on enzymes, part of that experiment was the experimentation was to observe what took place in the intestinal tract of a baby that had never eaten food before, and to see what happened the first time that baby had cooked vegetables. Now you'd think, shouldn't be any problem at all, right? Pure vegetables. But just the fact that they were cooked and the baby ate that cooked vegetable, the intestinal tract immediately excreted mucus to protect itself from that substance. Sounds crazy, huh? The fact that we have grown up thinking that, wow, that was the best of our dietary plan is the cooked vegetables. But it shows that the body was really designed to graze raw vegetables. And so that's kind of the ideal that we should all kind of be transitioning and working toward, is more raw foods. But realize also that in the process of digestion, we got to remember that that's why we were given teeth. We've been spoiled because when you cook vegetables, the cooking process breaks the cellulose down so that all the nutrients are easily made available. So all you have to do is chomp a few times, swallow it, and the body gets all the groceries out of it. But with the raw food, every cell contains the nutrient inside the cell, not in the fiber. And if your teeth doesn't break that fiber and release the nutrient, you don't get it. The body has zero cellulase. Now the Primegest has some, but not enough to replace your teeth. Okay? So all raw foods have to be chewed and chewed and chewed and chewed to get the nutrients out of the food. Okay? And so besides the supplemental fiber, the bowel tone, to act as a sponge to scrub the intestinal tract, the ozonated magnesium will stimulate the movement of that like a laxative effect, which to use magnesium as a laxative is more gentle on the intestinal tract than using laxatives. Another thing is a pregnant mother, a pregnant woman, would do much better with the magnesium than any form of laxative. Then the next thing, of course, is the friendly bacteria. Oftentimes we'll think, well, if the intestinal flora is out of balance, there's too much unfriendly bacteria and not enough friendly bacteria, then we need to get a probiotic supplement to get that balance right. Well, what we've got to stop and think about is most of us have, before we start getting this balance right, the average adult has approximately 3 pounds of unfriendly bacteria in the intestinal tract. Now stop and think of what a couple capsules of probiotics would do against 3 pounds of unfriendly bacteria. It would, at the best, it would create a little gas bubble, but it's not going to balance the intestinal flora. What I found works the best is a process that I refer to as displacement, where you remove the old and bring the new impregnated in to replace that imbalanced mass of waste in the intestinal tract. And so what we do is, and keep in mind the flavor of the Nutridophilus is mild enough to where it's very comfortable to just open the capsules up right into the Baltone mixture. That way you've got the organisms throughout the whole mixture. You drink that down and it has all that transit time to reproduce in the mass of Baltone, because not only is there prebiotics with the probiotics, which is like a food chain for the friendly bacteria, but the Baltone provides other sources of nutrient that the friendly bacteria can feed on, so that by the time it gets to the intestinal tract, it's been protected, it's been fed, and it's able to multiply. So as you move the old out and you bring the new fiber in, it will displace the old and properly balance the intestinal tract. Now the key to that balance also, and it's very, very important to recognize this, that is the tightness of the lower back is the reason for the stricture in the colon. And when I do the blood work and I see a person with a large volume of fungus in the blood, which is the candida that you hear about, that is indicating that there is most likely a stricture creating an incubator, taking your colon and turning it into an incubator to produce this unfriendly bacteria that later converts into the fungus of candida. And so we need to make sure that we're getting complete elimination. And the only way that we can do that is make sure that we get rid of all the tension in the lower back, either through like the extended child pose for 3 minutes twice every day, deep tissue massage, whatever stretching and exercises, but get that lower back opened up. Because as long as that nerve flow is restricted, the colon is not going to be able to release completely. And if it doesn't release completely, you're going to be incubating unfriendly bacteria, and you're going to be recycling a more concentrated toxic substance into the bloodstream. Now, this is the reason why it is absolutely essential for the well-being of the overall body to get that bacteria balanced, is because approximately 70% of our immune system comes from the gut. Now, if that's out of balance, stop and think about, now here's another thing that I observed when I study a person's blood under the microscope, is if a person isn't completely evacuating, and if the condition in the intestinal tract isn't right, the first thing that goes down is the white blood cells are all poisoned. Why is that? Well, you stop and think about the function of the colon. The colon is a trash compactor that works through the process of dehydration. It draws the fluids out of the waste material, preparing it for elimination. Now here's the dirty question. Where does all that fluid go to? In other words, a good term for it would be poop tea. If you were to stick a syringe into the colon and draw that poop tea out, would you ever allow anybody to inject that into your arm or shoot it in your mouth? No, but yet 24 hours a day, that is being pulled out and put into your bloodstream. Now, have you ever caught yourself ever saying that you felt crappy? Now you know why. That is a very real term. Because that fluid that is being drawn from the fecal matter is moving into the bloodstream 24 hours a day, and if the bacteria is out of balance, or if that waste material is sitting too long in the intestinal tract, your bloodstream is being saturated with that poison.
Why is pulling the water? What did you say it was pulling the water?
The colon, that's how it functions as an organ. It's drawing the fluids out of the waste material in the intestinal tract so that you don't dehydrate.
Oh.
Otherwise, we'd have to be drinking 5 times more than we do to keep from dehydrating. It's the body's water conservation program. Yes?
If you eat clean and you take care of your intestinal tract, then that poopy water is fine.
Yes. That same water gets neutralized. See, unfriendly bacteria, we need a certain amount of unfriendly bacteria to finish eating up the residue of the food. But the friendly bacteria neutralizes the toxicity of, well, how else can you say it? It's like any animal. What goes in the front end is a lot nicer than what comes out the back end. Okay, when you have unfriendly bacteria, they're eating waste material, really, and what comes out of them is really nasty. So the neat thing is the friendly bacteria consumes that toxic waste that comes out of the unfriendly bacteria and neutralizes that so that the liquid that is coming back through the intestinal tract into the bloodstream is neutralized. It's not toxic. Do you see how essential that is to have a properly balanced intestinal flora?
What are the symptoms? What are the symptoms of...
The number one symptom is feeling tired. And like I say, the common term that we all use is I feel kind of crappy. You know, it's literal. When you feel tired, when you feel poisoned. See, the brain can't communicate to us the difference between just feeling tired and feeling poisoned. Both are experienced as feeling exhausted. But anybody that has done a gallbladder flush and the intestinal tract didn't clear fast enough, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because that's a very common experience, is by holding on to that poison too long in the intestinal tract, it's pulled into the bloodstream and you feel like, ugh, you know? Yes, Dave?
Maybe breath, body odor, and bad skin or pimples.
Very, very good point, okay? If the body expresses odors and it gives off an odor as though something is rotting inside, it means simply that something is rotting inside. Okay? The armpits are the barometers to tell you how your colon is working. Okay? It's not some mysterious human thing that everybody has underarm odor. We shouldn't have underarm odor. We shouldn't have to wear deodorant. If you find that you're needing to wear deodorant, like especially if you notice on the right side, if there's an extra odor, your liver is overwhelmed. If the left side, it's the rest of your lymphatic system is stagnated, and of course it's coming from the colon. Okay? Both sides bad, you better get to doing a good detox program quick. Okay? Now, obviously we've all grown up with the belief that that's natural to have body odor. It's not. If the filters can't keep the blood clean enough, see, all these fluids is lymphatic. What is the lymphatic system? It's a system parallel to the bloodstream that washes all the acid waste away from all the cells of the body. Okay? And it moves it up here under the collarbones, dumps it into the bloodstream so that the liver can filter it. But if the liver can't handle the workload because the liver is already overwhelmed as a filter, the brain will tighten the muscles right here and stagnate the lymph. Can you see very clearly the direct and immediate cause for all breast disorders? Because when you back the lymph up, it's like putting a kink in the hose. When you back that up, the lymphatic glands in the breast start having problems, and you retain water. The water weight that a lot of women talk about is not fat cells. Cellulite isn't fat cells. It's lymphatic stagnation because the liver as a filter is overwhelmed and it's backing everything up. One great weight loss plan is consistently doing gallbladder flushes so that the lymph can flow and remove those fluids from the body. Okay, so those are the highest priorities: enhancing the digestion, getting the intestinal flow moving, and rebalancing the bacteria. The very next vital step in body chemistry support is to enhance the cleansing of the blood and the lymph. Now the skin, as we've all heard, is the largest organ of elimination in the body. But remember, back when most all of us would be outside working hard in the field or whatever and perspiring, that organ of elimination worked. But as long as the second we feel a little perspiration, we run over and turn the air conditioner down a little colder, the skin doesn't get the opportunity to function as an organ of elimination. Because in order for it to work properly, you've got to sweat. And the best thing is through either a workout at the gym or outside in the field or garden, work up a sweat, it can finally work well. But because that isn't so common, in body chemistry support, the next highest priority that we suggest is that you do 2 detox baths a week. Okay? Consistently doing 2 detox baths a week, remember that we're supporting a brilliant mechanism that especially if you choose the same 2 days every week that you're going to do the detox bath, this brilliant mechanism will start releasing more chemicals, metals, and garbage from tissue storage into the bloodstream and into the lymphatic system in preparation for you to pull it out with a detox bath. And it is amazing how much garbage you can pull out of the body with just 1 detox bath. And guess what? The liver never has to look at that stuff again. You know, it's kind of like throwing something in the trash can. You know, you just don't even have to wonder whether you needed that again or not. It's gone. Well, that's the way the liver feels when you do a detox bath. It's like, hey, I'll never have to see those metals again. See, we're all exposed to toxic metals all the time and chemicals. In a food, water, air, we're all overexposed. And it's difficult for the body to get rid of especially toxic metals, especially like copper and some of the really toxic metals. But they get released from tissue storage from time to time and they're circulating. But if we don't get them out, it has to go through the process of the liver, which is almost always overwhelmed anyway, filtering from the blood, dumping it into an overwhelmed gallbladder that's already full of cholesterol balls, trying to squeeze that stuff through to get it into the intestinal tract. Then you have something like copper that is constipating, that once it hits the intestinal tract, slows everything down and recycles again anyway. So the poor liver says, same scrap metal I got rid of yesterday. Here it is again, back again. By consistently doing the detox baths, you break that cycle. You open that chain and you release right out through the skin. Which brings us to the next highest priority. After consistently doing the detox baths twice a week, as Dr. Kerry Reams once stated, every health disorder can be traced back to a mineral deficiency. Why do we eat vegetables? Because they contain minerals. Our vitamins are mostly in fruit, but our minerals that are so vital to every function. In fact, to get an idea of how essential minerals are, vitamins are absolutely useless if you don't have the mineral to put it to work. The body is mostly made up of water, salt, and minerals. And that's why vegetables are so valuable in our diet, to make sure that we get those minerals. What we've put together is a combination of fulvic minerals that are dispersed so finely in the water that there is no particle size at all. In fact, you could, if we hadn't put the buffered magnesium in, you could actually put it in a clear beaker and shine a laser through it, and it wouldn't reflect the laser at all. You couldn't even see the laser going through it because there are no particles at all in it. And you think, well, what's the value of that? It can move so easily into your cells. Total, 100% deliverable into the cells. But because another reason why we put the combination together is because we're all basically a little bit on the acidic side generally, and we're all lacking magnesium. We found a way to put this combination together where the buffered magnesium with the electromins, that formula, will also help us to decalcify our glands and the tissue of the body, which of course is a major break to start slowing down one of the components of aging. You know, this is what causes us to feel like we're turning to stone, is stress causes the body to accumulate calcium outside of the bones, loading the tissue to cause the tissue to become tighter. See, calcium is the mineral that causes a muscle to contract. Magnesium allows it to relax. And as we, not as we age, because age has nothing to do with it, it's just that accumulative stress causes us to feel the body considers stress as being a type of pain, and it uses calcium as a sedative to sedate the pain. So if there isn't enough calcium in the diet, the body will pull the calcium from the bones to sedate us from our own perceptions of life, which is the biggest cause of stress, of course, is our own created distresses in life. Anyway, so by taking this formula consistently, what you do is you make up 2 quarts of water in the morning, add the minerals to it, and consider that to be your daily supplement of water. The water is mineralized. We talked a little bit last week about a question was, how do we get really, really good water? Well, you could actually start with reverse osmosis or distilled water, and as we know, those are both dead waters, and they would be better to not be consumed that way. But if you take one of those dead but clean waters, put 3 quarts of it into a gallon jar that you can lock the lid down on, add the minerals to it, clamp the lid down, shake it up to aerate it. That's the reason for 3 quarts of water in a 4-quart container, because you have space where there's air there, to where when you shake it up, you oxygenate the water. You got the minerals in there, so you swirl it and put it on the counter, and it vortexes. That uses the minerals in a vortexing method to charge the water and bring it back to life. Then you've got your daily water there. Okay, so.
Excuse me, this mineral is different from the magnesium liquid?
Well, the majority of this, the one we call the buffered magnesium, the majority of it is a fulvic mineral, where it's an ancient organic matter that is completely dissolved in water, so that you get all the minerals easily delivered into the cells.
That magnesium is
And then we
included with minerals.
added the magnesium on top of that to help dissolve the calcium out of the tissue. It's a magnesium chloride, which the body can readily use. See, our water should have magnesium in it, but the water in Southern California, you'll never find any magnesium in it. But that's why it's so difficult to get enough magnesium, because most of the magnesiums that we have available are laxatives. They move to the intestinal tract, and if you get a sufficient quantity, it will create diarrhea. And so what we're doing is we have magnesium in several ways to where we're trying to get everybody saturated with it. And this is just one small way of getting a supplemental magnesium on a daily basis in your 2 quarts of water. Then we have a lotion where if you have spasmed muscles, you work that into the muscle. It'll not only help loosen the muscle, but it'll go into the bloodstream. And again, that's not going to cause diarrhea. Whatever you rub onto your skin, it'll be into the bloodstream. And then we have one other one somewhere. What's the third one?
Magnesium citrate.
Okay, so those are the main 2 for supplementation. The others are laxative and gallbladder flushing. Okay, that is the foundation of body chemistry support. And all of that goes to prepare a person for what I feel to be an essential next step, and that is the gallbladder flush. Now, there's been so much controversy through the years. The only controversy is ignorance against experience. There's no conflicts there at all. It's just once you understand the necessity of it, you start realizing that it's just as important to consistently do the gallbladder flush as it is to change your oil in the oil filter. Is there any conflict of who should change their oil and filter? No, it's a fact that if you don't do that, your engine will wear out more quickly. What happens if you don't clean the filter in the body? Your body wears out faster. It's called aging. That is the number 1 cause for aging, is the filter getting clogged up and stagnating the fluids through the body and holding poison against the tissue cells so that they break down and develop what we call aging. Collectively, we call that aging.
I tend to get a little discouraged because when I do the gallbladder flush, as well as when Eric does it, something doesn't pop up and say, here we are, these green balls we're looking for, and we see nothing, we feel discouraged. And I thought maybe I whipped my oil up in the blender too much and got it too fluffy, and then maybe I thought that was the reason.
No, there's 3 reasons why you won't have successful gallbladder flushes, and all 3 need to be worked on until you do have successful gallbladder flushes. Now, if you feel like you keep doing the gallbladder flush and you're not getting anything, I've talked to people that haven't let me know this until a year or so later. Oh yeah, I've done 20 gallbladder flushes. How successful? Well, I've never seen anything yet, but I keep doing them. Well, that's like trying anything. It's like Yoda would say, there is no try. Either do or don't do, but don't try. Try is no such thing. With the gallbladder flushes, if you don't get success the first night, do it again the next day. Now, in preparation for a successful gallbladder flush, make sure that this area right here is open. The nerve flow from the spine going to the gallbladder. And any tool that looks similar to this will work. You lay it on the floor and you roll with your upper back to open up that nerve flow. Deep tissue massage.
How are you rolling with it? Long ways or?
You lay it down like this. Lay back against it this way.
Go ahead. What? Oh. I'm sorry. I mean, it's important. Okay.
Like that.
Okay.
You roll that way.
Okay,
Roll it that way.
thank you.
The way he rolls.
Now, as you see, it's like a rolling pin going up and down your spine. Now, the two things you want to do is keep your head level with your body, and then focus on relaxing your muscles, because if you're tight, the roller can't get up into the muscle. You need the roller to get up into the muscle to decongest it. And that way, if it's decongested, then you stimulate the nerve flow from the spine to the associated organs. Anytime that you have a point in the spine where there's pain, it's warning you that there's a problem inside. Because what happens is there's a two-way communication going on, and this is a good example of it, of this point right here. Several years after the liver gets overwhelmed and has problems, because the gallbladder, which is the trash can of the liver, is full. By the time we're 20 years old, that little gallbladder that should be like this is full of blobs of cholesterol, arterial plaque. And it just gets worse from there. When that happens, that starts a signal to the point where the nerve flows from the spinal cord to the gallbladder. And after so many years, that point will start getting sore. It's only an indicator. In fact, another thing is you can find sore points in your feet that are also trying to tell you, help, help. Okay, there's many areas, your eyes through iridology, there's many ways that the body is trying to get the message out that there's problems in the filtering system or whatever. Yes, Egan?
I was using Georgette, who worked here as a colon hydrotherapist.
Uh-huh.
And so for me, when I did a gallbladder flush, I insisted on having a colonic afterward, because I had several gallbladder flushes where I was poisoned. I was just walking around in the morning, just literally poisoned.
Right.
And Georgette recommended 2 to 3 days before a gallbladder flush just to drink apple juice. And she said the malic acid in apple juice softens things up. I don't know what your comment is on that.
We used to use the apple juice to prepare people. Then we went to phosphoric acid. And then I got to realizing after we had several people with gallstones, and we kept using the phosphoric acid, and it didn't dissolve the gallstones, but when they did the gallbladder flush, they passed gallstones. So I figured, well, what in the heck are we preparing for? They passed very easily. In fact, a friend of mine passed 4 gallstones. These are the things that go clunk in the toilet, bigger than golf balls. 4 of them.
Wow.
And that magic lady will be here in February again,
February?
right?
Is Gloria coming
Oh,
here?
no, they're thinking.
Oh, Georgette.
No, but she said, was she saying Georgette? Or did he say Georgette or Kate?
Yeah, you
He
skipped part of the
said Georgette.
conversation and you
Sorry.
jumped back.
Sorry, I thought he was talking.
Yes, I think that Georgette will be
Katie and
back.
Georgette
Yes.
should be-
Anyway, that is a very good point, because sometimes you'll have a great gallbladder flush and you look in the toilet and there's nothing there, because the transit time is so sluggish through the intestinal tract. It may take 2 days for everything to come out. And that's what Egan was pointing out, is he had such a successful gallbladder flush, but sluggish intestinal flow. And so Georgette would help him with a colonic to get that moving out faster. So that's the reason why at least 2 hours after a gallbladder flush, you should take the Baltone and fiber regulators, or in this case now, the ozonated magnesium. Now see, you take the, in doing the gallbladder flush, instead of any preparation or anything, all you do is 1 hour before the gallbladder flush, you take a magnesium. We have a really great magnesium citrate now, a very mild flavor, but it works very well. But it creates diarrhea. Now, you still have diarrhea after you've done the gallbladder flush. 2 hours later, you're probably still having diarrhea, and you're getting ready to have your Baltone, your fiber regulator, and your brain says, Are you crazy? We got diarrhea here and you're taking a laxative? Well, keep in mind that the diarrhea was created before the gallbladder flush. And so what you've got to do is realize, okay, now the gallbladder has released these blobs of waxy fat and poison, and you got to put a sponge in that intestinal tract and push that stuff out, and the laxative effect of the magnesium is like the rod that pushes the sponge through. So you got to kind of talk your brain down and say, no, I'm not crazy, I just got to get the poison out. I talked to someone this morning and they said, you know, every time when I do a gallbladder flush, I'll follow it the next morning with a coffee enema. Well, that's fine too. But the thing is, the coffee stimulating a release from the liver again, it's a day late because that's what the oil did. So I think that that's kind of redundant, but the enema might be a good idea. But I would rather see everyone succeed, and so the best way is make sure that you have a good flushing gallbladder flush, and then put that fiber and the ozonated magnesium behind it and just clear that tube so that it doesn't poison you. Okay? But as far as preparation is concerned, if you've got gallstones, you'll pass gallstones. There's no reason for preparation, but you definitely want to make sure that, first of all, you have successful gallbladder flushes, and there's 3 things that could possibly hold you up from that. One, obviously, if the nerve flow is tight from the upper back, that will weaken the gallbladder to where it won't be strong enough to be able to contract. In the very beginning, it's possible that the gallbladder could be impacted, and so it can't release anything, and that's the reason why in the first gallbladder flush or first couple, if it isn't successful the first night, then the very next night hit it again, and that will loosen things up to where you'll start getting a release. Now the third possible reason why you wouldn't have a successful gallbladder flush is if you were holding on to too much anger in the liver. Now you can think, well, I'm not an angry person. Well, no, that isn't what we're talking about. That anger could be put in that liver from 2 generations back. And 2, another thing is, the nicer we are, the more we implode. And implosion is putting that contractiveness of anger into the liver, which contracts it and makes it more difficult to do gallbladder flushes. Make sense? Okay, so if you have anger and resentment locking that liver down, that can be the third reason why it might not be flowing. So a good exercise, a good big punching bag is a great exercise. But another thing is you could take a bath towel is a good safe weapon to exercise with. You lay the bath towel out, roll it up from side to side where you have this long droopy baseball bat. Take black electrical tape and tape it every 10 inches so that when you're finished you have this droopy baseball bat. And then you go into a room like a bedroom where you can lock the doors and turn some music up and be all by yourself. And then in your imagination you put the imaginary person on the bottom of the bed there that can really make you angry, and then you take that baseball bat and you beat the tar out of them. I'll tell you a funny story that Adele Davis wrote about to show you how powerful this can be. She had a little old lady that was just all stiffened up from arthritis hobble into her room, into her office this one day, and she had been trying to help this woman with her diet and everything, and diet was not working. She knew it was deeper than diet. As we talked about last week, we've been told that we are what we eat, but here was a little old lady that proved that we are what we feel again. But the little old lady hobbled in, and Adele said, actually I have a little bit of paperwork I have to finish up before we can get together and review your diet today. But I've got a big cushion over there in the corner of the room. If you wouldn't mind, I'd like for you to stimulate your circulation by going over and just kind of kicking at that big pillow. And she said it wasn't even 30 minutes and there's a blue cloud over this little old lady's head, just kicking the crap out of that pillow. And she came stomping back after about 3 minutes of cussing and kicking that pillow. And she came over and she sat down right quick and she thought about what she'd just done. And she got up and she realized that her stiffness was gone. She had been holding all that emotional contractiveness for so long. 50% of it wasn't even arthritis. It was just a stance. It was just a holding on to the anger. There is so much energy that we lock into the body and especially into the liver that would be so much better released. And that's a great way of doing it. Just, take turns. Whoever makes you the most angry, put them on the bed, beat the tar out of them, express yourself fully to them, and don't forget to put yourself. You take a turn too. You get to go onto the bed, beat yourself up too, okay? Because oftentimes we resent ourselves for certain things that we've done or some issues from the past. Get it out. Get that energy moving. It's a great physical exercise, but it will loosen up that liver and the gallbladder to where your gallbladder flushes can be more effective. Okay? All right. Are there any questions about basic body chemistry support? Because I think, or I believe, if every single person understood that your body, if it were given a microphone, what I've just shared tonight is exactly what it would ask you to do for it, to support it in what it is busy doing itself. We can't fix the body, but we can support it so that it can take care of itself. Yes, ma'am.
And I know that magnesium is very effective for heart.
Yes?
Could you tell me what's the relationship and effect of magnesium for heart?
Well, remember what I mentioned a few minutes ago, that calcium is the mineral that causes muscles to contract. And remember, a heart is nothing but a big muscle. Magnesium will allow the muscle to relax. And so if you have a muscle that is only contracting real hard, you'll feel it because it'll feel like your heart is pounding. You know from that you've placed yourself under so much stress that you've loaded the muscle tissue of the heart with calcium, and it's just contracting a lot harder than it's relaxing. And if you stop and think of what a Charlie horse is, what happens if you get a Charlie horse in the heart? Game's over. That's what'll happen if you get too much calcium buildup in the muscle caused by emotions, caused by stress. The heart will contract and it won't relax. Game over. Yes, ma'am.
So, hi. So the electromins, you add that with the buffered magnesium in water?
No, you just, it's
Oh,
all
it's in
together.
there. Oh,
Yep.
it's already in there. Okay,
Everything's
I
in
thought
there.
it was
Just add it to
everything.
water.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, I've been doing that. I didn't know if there were separate things.
You got it all. Yes?
I am a little bit confused with the water that we are drinking every day. And I have studied several types of water. Which one is the best or which one I should install in my home? The osmosis remove all the mineral. Distilled water, no good, no mineral. Now, if you go to the store right now, $3-4 for alkaline water, And we've been using spring water. And I have a big tank in my garage to filterize the water in the house. And still, I have not come to a conclusion what is the best way to consume the
Well,
water every
the
day.
very best is if you could go and find an unpolluted stream and lay down and drink out of that, but that's kind of tough to find. First of all, you want clean water, because even filtered water, you get a good carbon filter, and you filter that water, and then you get some form of flocculation, and you flocculate that, you'll find that you've got, out of about a pint of water, you'll have about a tablespoon of this funky looking green stuff settling to the bottom. And you think, do I want to drink that? Okay, obviously that's dissolved solids in the water, which adds to the garbage in the water. So yes, reverse osmosis and distilled water are both dead waters, but they're clean. So if you take clean dead water And like I was saying a few minutes ago, put 3 quarts of that in a gallon jar, add the minerals to it, close the lid down, shake it up to oxygenate it, swirl it to vortex it, you brought it back to life. Now it's live, oxygenated, mineraled water. It's great water.
And
So for the spring water, don't recommend that they are,
If you can get true spring water,
what they are selling, they say it's Sierra and spring water.
don't trust labels on the water containers. Julie, do you have a question?
Yeah, could you give me those ratios again? So how much water, did you say 3 quarts of the,
3 quarts, yes,
3
into a gallon container.
in a gallon container with 2 caps of the buffered magnesium?
Yes.
Okay.
it would be 1.5.
Hold on.
Oh,
Actually, I have a